All right, this is Cawfee Talk. It is exactly 4:30. I like to start on time because I'm usually on time. I'm usually actually early, and it bothers me when I show up to something early and then the instructor waits like 5 or 10 minutes, and then after she waits and then starts, some other people will walk in and then she'll backtrack. I'm like, well, why the heck should anybody come on time then? All right, so our Cawfee Talk is going to be about comfort zones. And the thing that got me started, and don't forget, this is interactive, okay? Last time it was awesome. We had a lot of, chat going on. And remember, all you have to do is say, mute me, because I would much rather speaking than typing. But if you'd rather not talk, then just type, all right? Because I could see what you write. So, all right, I'm taking a course right now on how to break into magazines, right? And it's a 4-week class that you take over the phone, right? It was not cheap. Not that that means anything, but when you spend money on something, you tend to like when I joined the gym, I went on a regular basis because every month that money's coming out of my account. Now I dropped it because I was really, really faithful to the gym, like so faithful it was becoming addicting, like where I would stop in the middle of the day, even though I'd gone at 5 in the morning. And then I said, you know what? I don't really need the extra expense. I'm just going to drop it because, you had a certain amount of time that you're able to do that and not have any kind of penalty and stuff. So I did. And I'm not as faithful as I was before. And I know it's not because I didn't like it. It's because I had that little thing in the back of my mind that was saying, you're paying for this. So anyway, that's why I mentioned that it was not cheap because, I paid for this and a nice little penny. And I saw this woman speak. She was awesome. She's an editor in big magazines, and she has this course. And I'm wondering to myself, why am I not doing it? I'm taking the course. I'm on time for it and everything, and I participate, and I work on stuff, but not all like I should be. And it made me start to think about people who are taking my course. And I'm saying, I wonder what this is all about. So I did some research and I found out some things about comfort zone, and it really tied in a lot of things for me. So I just thought this would be a great topic. But it is something that I kind of, put together last minute only because I was excited about it. So if I end up sounding like an idiot, then you know why. I always have like a disclaimer. All right, so this is the definition of comfort zone. And don't forget, raise your hand, stop me at any point in time. You could even like raise your hand to say, can you, stop beating the dead horse? We get your point already. All right. All right. So the comfort zone is a behavioral state within which a person operates in an anxiety neutral condition using a limited set of behaviors to deliver a steady level of performance, usually without a sense of risk. Now, what we have to know is that that level of performance is mediocrity, because anything that we could do without any sense of anxiety at all is something we know like the back of our hand, something that we are so comfortable with, something that is like us. I hope you don't hear that horn outside, but somebody's car just got bumped or something. And so if you do, there's nothing I could do about it. And if you don't, I guess I'll edit that out when I do the video. Anyway, oh, it's really annoying. So the reason that we stay in a comfort zone is because of fear. And if we stay in a particular comfort zone, in a place that is really familiar and isn't different than the norm, nothing changes in our life. But kind of in the back of our mind, we like it that way. Now, these are some things that have happened to me and also is just part of life that becomes difficult, even though it's a good thing. Change in anybody's life is difficult, even good change. It's one of the hardest things for the human organism to handle. Like if you got a new job, if you kind of just changed your whole life around, based on circumstances that you wanted, but you're afraid. You get a new house, you have a new baby, you open a business, you start a relationship, even things as simple as fine dining or going back to school, losing weight. Anything that's like different than what we're doing now is something that we tend to pull back on or have a real lot of fear about. And often we sabotage it. We mess it up. We say, how can I mess this up? And the reason for that is because as human beings, it's what we're used to doing, staying in a comfort zone. I was just listening to another course I'm taking on abundance. And what he was talking about, which was awesome because it's how I kind of connected my issue with this course I'm taking with magazines. Um, he was talking about how we like to stay in our comfort zone. So if somebody makes more money, they're going to lose it. Like say you just won $10,000, you're going to work it out subconsciously to lose that $10,000. Either spend it foolishly or something. It's going to be gone. You're not going to like have it to invest or have a nest egg or no, that's not going to happen. It's going to be gone. And then something else is that if you lose money, like say you just got a $5,000 pay cut, you're going to do everything you can to raise your salary to $5,000. Not necessarily because you need it or you don't. It's a psychological thing that we do, needing desperately to stay what we are used to being in. And this really explains why so many battered women stay in that position, in that condition, and also why a little child will cling to their abusive parent. It's just because familiarity, if that's the way you say it, is just a natural thing for us. Being outside of the familiar is more scary than being in whatever situation it is, even if it's a scary one. We have to realize that it's human nature to want what is easy. What's not easy is scary. It's human nature for us to want things not to change. What is new is scary. Now, I think it was really funny when I was going through Google and looking through for some images. I can't tell you how many of them there were about change and positive, things happening, but all of these things intertwined with it with like self-sabotage and kind of contradicting, but all work together because guess what? This is universal. Now, again, I am going back to this or forward to this because some things happened to me in my lifetime that were, you would think, well, that's a good thing. What's wrong with you? Why wouldn't you like to do that? Like when somebody asked me out once I got separated, asked me out to go to some amazing restaurant, and I was like so scared to go because it wasn't something I was used to. Somebody once asked me to the opera, and I remember calling my sister frantic about it. I mean, now if somebody asked me to the opera, all I'd think of is what am I going to wear? I can't wait to go. But that isn't. And I think I'm on the wrong slide. Let me just do this. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about it anyway because I know that there's another slide for this. All right. Well, I called my sister frantic about going to the opera, and she said, Kathy, just figure out what you're going to wear and just go and have a good time. But because it was so unfamiliar for me to have even decent things happening in my life, it was so scary that I couldn't handle it. And what you have to do is practice. Now I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let me just go. All right. We have to talk about this, that fear is normal and we have to do it anyway. And one of the greatest things about this is that when you know that you're doing something that's good for you and you have that feeling of fear, we have to realize that it isn't like that gut reaction that you have not to do it. You know how we have to have that gut reaction. We all have to have it. It's like that survival thing. It tells us when there's danger or not. We know we need that. But when something is like out of sync in your life, like say you're going to go back to college, and then all of a sudden you start getting all these guilty feelings. Oh, I shouldn't be going to school. I really should be going to work instead. Or, oh my God, I'm going to leave the kids to go to school. All of that time I'm spending away from the family. All of that stuff is going to come like rumbling to the top of the pot. Like, you ever hear about stirring up the pot and then all the stuff on the bottom comes up? That's going to start happening, but it's a good thing because it gives you the trigger to realize that the thing that's supposed to happen is happening because it's out of the norm, because it's not what you normally do. You're going to get that feeling. But because you know it's a good thing, then you have to ignore what you think is that, survival thing that says, this is bad, don't do it. That thing that we have, that instinct that says that we know is good to have. But at some point in time, you have to recognize it as something else. Did you ever hear about, like when you're hungry, a lot of times, when you're thirsty, a lot of times you think you're hungry. People who are like in Weight Watchers or any kind of a weight program, they're always told that before you eat something, have a tall glass of water because sometimes you're hungry. We are an amazing creature. We really are. And I think our bodies are fabulous. But sometimes the signals get a little screwed up, and that's one of them. And another one is that like little piece of fear thing that we feel when something is out of the norm. Don't think it's that that feeling of I shouldn't be doing this. Think of it as, oh, good, that this is the way it should feel. Because if you practice and you push through, that feeling goes away. Just like I said, now if somebody asks me to the opera, I'm just happy to go. I don't panic. So change is scary and knowledge is power. And what I mean by knowledge is power is exactly what I just said. When you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that this kind of thing happens, you're able to deal with it. When you don't, you're constantly passing up good opportunities because you don't recognize it. And another thing about knowledge is power is this. If you know that this happens, then when something's happening, like maybe taking a course on getting organized, or in my case, taking a course on breaking into magazines, when I realized that feeling I was having was a feeling of, oh, this is a good thing. I need to push through. I need to recognize this. That's the only way I could have moved forward and done something. And I had to talk with the instructor, and she said, oh, it's very common. She said, especially with writing, because people just have these negative things in their head about writing since they were children. And so there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background. And so she was really kind about it, and she completely recognized it. So that was a cool thing. All right, so here, this is the slide that I was going to talk about. These are some things that, now, not the guy with the horn. No, I don't play a horn. But the horn thing represents practice. Certain things sincerely do need practice. And one of them is believing that you can do what it is that you want to do. And these things have to happen on purpose. You have to realize something without knowing it, that you have been practicing the negative for a long time. You just don't know it, but you have been. You have been consistently practicing, not thinking you're going to succeed, not thinking you're going to be able to do something, not feeling like you deserve it, not feeling like you're worthy. Those are things that have been practiced, and that's why we're so good at it. But the greatest thing is that we can change that. There's little pathways in our brain, and they found that the more you think something, the bigger the pathway gets. And the less you think something else, it'll actually grow over. So you can kind of picture it as like a deer path. If you're in the woods and you see like there's deer paths places, it's because it's a deer path. Animals consistently walk through there. But what happens if a house is built right there? Suddenly the deer aren't going to go there anymore because they're afraid. And before you know it, that deer path is going to grow over and they're going to start another one. And that's exactly what happens in our brain. So if you're constantly telling yourself something one way and you want to change that, just stop walking on that pathway and start another one. And before you know it, you're going to start to believe that truth instead of whatever that lie was, because a lie that you believe might as well be true. It doesn't matter as long as you believe it. Now, this is just a few things. Like a long time ago, right after I was divorced, a friend of mine asked me to go on a cruise with her, and she said, "It's now I was never on a vacation before. I've mentioned that before, I think, and I was really excited to go on this cruise. Well, actually, no, wait, let me say this again. I always wanted to go on a cruise, and I was really excited that I had this opportunity, but I was also completely convinced, and I'm telling you, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt, if you told me that I was wrong, I would tell you, you don't know what the heck you're talking about. I was completely convinced I should not go. This was the deal. Let me tell you the deal. She was going with her daughter and her daughter's girlfriend. And well, first she was just going with her daughter. Then her daughter convinced her to take her daughter's girlfriend. And then she said, so she got another room. And then she thought it would be fine by herself. And as it was getting closer and closer to it, she was like, oh my God, I don't want to go alone. Now she knew I had just gotten divorced. The work that I had was like very sparse because I was a stay-at-home mom for 26 years. So I was still in a position of what am I going to be when I grow up? And I had like a lot of odd jobs, like entrepreneurish jobs. Like I was painting offices, I was cleaning houses, there was all kinds of things that I was doing. I was an errand person for a lawyer friend of mine, running errands to drop off things for her and stuff. So there was a lot of stuff I was doing to make ends meet and make money. So she knew that I really didn't have a job where I had to like take off a week. I could just not go. And so she said, it won't cost you anything. It's $100 to add somebody to the room, or it was $200 to add somebody to the room. It's all inclusive. All you need is maybe $100 for your pocket if you want like to have pocket money, but really you don't need anything. And so I should have been really excited. It was going to cost me $200, maybe three, and she was willing to pay the $200 if I cleaned her house. So she said, "You're cleaning houses anyway. So come and clean my house, and we'll do it do it 4 times, do it for a month, and we'll be even." So now I didn't even have to take that money out of my pocket for that. I just needed $100, and so the money wasn't the issue at all. And I was completely convinced I shouldn't go. I said, "All right, let me think about it." And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, please. I just have to think about it. I'm not sure." I talked to my girlfriends. I talked to my daughter, my oldest daughter. I talked to my younger daughter, who at the time was 13, I think, 13, right? And I was, saying, I really shouldn't go. Should I go? I think this is wrong. It's 10 days. I'll be away from home for 10 whole days. I mean, I was nuts to have even a reservation. But I'm telling you that it was as real as somebody telling me that what I was really going to do was walk through, a lion's den. I was completely convinced that it was as wrong to do as that. And the only reason I did it was because I was in Al-Anon at the time, and I was learning things about myself. And I was learning that what happens after a period of time with a lot of people is when you put yourself on the back burner. And believe me, you don't have to be I wasn't in an abusive relationship. It wasn't abusive. You don't have to be in a really horrible relationship. All it takes is one belief of I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve it, or everybody else really needs more attention than me. It doesn't have to be some huge, severe, big, you've been abused situation. All it has to be is you thinking to yourself that I don't deserve it. And that's enough for you to say, I really shouldn't be doing this. And when I was in Al-Anon, and I learned that a lot of times what most women do especially is they'll put themselves on the back burner forever. And of course, it makes a lot of sense. Being a mother is, oh my God, it is completely all consuming. And when you're a daughter, I mean, it just, women in general kind of are those caregivers. It's built in us. God made it that way. Sometimes, though, things get skewed in the way God intended it, and it ends up, twisted. And so that's what happened. So that's one example of something that was really good that I, thought was really bad. Another one was when I went to college, and that was way back in, God, I was 30. And I thought, and while I was in school, I'm saying, oh my God, I should be doing the dishes. Doing the dishes? What, are you kidding me? So, and then, so, and then of course I mentioned the opera, and now we're on the writing thing. So it doesn't mean because you push through one thing that you're not going to have to push through another and another and another. There's layers of things. Now I allow myself, I've practiced enough to allow myself to enjoy life. I've done that. So if anything comes up across my plate, somebody has a trip anywhere, I'm going. Somebody invites me someplace, I'm going. I mean, if that is a no-brainer now. I'm practiced with that. But the thing with the getting into magazines, well, that's a little bit different because, I have these other things in there that I wasn't aware of. Like, well, who do you think you are? And why do you think that'll work for you? So once I recognized it, now I'm able to take care of it. Now I'm able to say, shut up. I could tell myself to shut up anytime I want to and then move on. All right. Just keep practicing. This, I think, is a great thing because when you're a little kid, you get on a bike. You don't think to yourself, I can't do this. Maybe you're a little scared. You know that they're a little scared, but they do it anyway. And how many times do they fall? I think one of the things that we're afraid of so much is failing. We're afraid to fail. Um, I think one of the reasons that I continued on with Tidy Tutor was because I told no one. I also have some videos that I did of singing that I told no one about. Now, the reason that I had back then for telling no one was because I had ideas in the past. And when I would tell people something, I would always feel discouraged and then not do it. So this time I figured, all right, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to do it. And what I found out was it really wasn't the discouragement that stopped me from doing those other ideas. It was the premature birth of an idea. It was telling somebody something. Something happens in our brains that trigger a euphoric feeling. And it makes you feel like you've done it already, even though you haven't. So you're kind of always in the state of planning and never doing or quitting. And then, of course, there's that fear of failing. So combine those two things. Since I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, I had no fear that anybody was going to be looking at me and saying, oh, brother, that didn't work. Well, look at what you did. Now that I pushed through that, I don't care what anybody thinks about anything I try and I don't do. All I think of it is, wait a minute, that I try and doesn't succeed. Not that I don't try and I don't do, not that. All right, let me say that again. I am not afraid anymore of letting anybody know anything that I'm doing for fear that I might fail. I don't care if I fail. I care if I don't try because eventually the spaghetti is going to stick to the wall. That's eventually something is going to happen because that's just the way life is. Every single successful person, look them up. All of them have had amazing failures, but they don't see them as failures. They see them as a result. This was the result of me doing that. And then they do something else. Abraham Lincoln, do you know how many times he tried to be president? It's almost embarrassing. Thomas Edison, what's his name? The guy from Apple, him. You can really just go on and on and on and on. If anybody remembers his name, you could say it so I can give him credit. So there's that. All right. So one thing is, keep practicing and don't be afraid of failing. You're going to fail. You're going to fall off the bike. But, now you ride a bike and it doesn't do anything to you. And also, don't tell anybody. And not Steve Jobs. Thank you. Also, the reason that you don't tell anybody, there's a few reasons. Honestly, there is some discouragement people give. A lot of times people are afraid of the change that's going to happen in somebody and that they won't be there for them. They'll be different. Things will change. So that does happen sometimes. Also, sometimes they'll just be discouraging just because that's human nature. But the other reason is that there is that thing that happens in your mind, your brain. It's an actual endorphin that gives you a pleasureful feeling of just talking about what you want to do. And it cuts the drive to actually do it because you feel like you have. It's like fool's gold. Okay, so let's see. You have to meditate, you have to practice, you have to believe. When I took that abundance course, that's what this man, the man that was doing that course, said. He said, a lot of times it's just a belief. You sincerely need to believe that you can succeed in something before you can actually succeed in it. And it's only a thought. It's like if you're a little kid playing the piano for the first time and practicing, you sound really bad, but you don't quit because you know that you can get better. And if you sincerely believe that you will not get better, you're going to quit. You are not going to continue. You have to get somewhere in your mind where you think that you can, and it has to come with by practice. So if right now, whatever it is in your life that's going on, even if it's, taking the Tidy Tutor University, like if you have taken all the courses, listened to everything, even maybe gotten all your stuff for your notebook, maybe even put it together, but haven't opened it up and actually done anything that's in there, then you have to start, sitting back, taking some time, even if you could only if right now you can't have 10 seconds of believing that you can do something, then take 5 seconds. Sit down, count to 5, and say, I can do whatever it is. And then next, little while later, take 10 seconds. It'll build up. You just have to do it a little at a time and regularly. That's the only way things get better, is if it happens on a regular basis. Okay? So take the time aside. It doesn't have to be, some big yoga stance. Just think about it. Okay, so that's it. We're done with this coffee talk about feeling like you have to stay in your comfort zone, even if you don't want to be there. Even if you don't want something to even if you want something to happen, and instead, how many times? Let me ask you this, and I'd love to hear this if you guys have anything to say. How many times have you wanted to go somewhere, even just somewhere simple like the movies or a play, and talked yourself out of it? And then how many times have you pushed through and just went anyway, and you were so glad that you did? That's just like a little tiny piece of the big piece of, if we can't sometimes, take the little pleasures in life, then of course, what do you think is going to happen with the big ones, right? Okay, I'm going to sign out now, and this will be up probably tomorrow. Bye bye. Nice talking to you guys.